shame. The round 9 watch list. Just before we get there, Lee Montagna, welcome.
Hello, Jared. Robbo.
David King, hello.
Gee, Robbo.
You did the Gold Coast Melbourne game, so you've seen how it's all unfolded in the aftermath. Where are you with the Van Rooyen suspension?
I've heard it all, Gee. I think the end game will be that we're being conditioned to a future view of the game. That's my theory, and this one's come ahead of time. But I just want to keep it to footy. Right? This guy is the #1 target over the last month of football in the top 60 targets of the competition at getting a goal from his targeted entries, 55% of the time. He's critical to Melbourne. Don't think this is just a nice-to-have player. It's far from that. So, Joey, I know we talk a lot about what he's done. 11 goals, 2 for the year, 8-1 from the corridor, 14 marks, 7 of them contested. That's how he plays. So he's in trouble for the next 50 games if that's a problem for him. But, you know, he's critical to Melbourne, Jared.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as I think most people. I don't think we're ready for this yet to be a suspendable act, to be in a marking contest or a spoiling contest, making a play for the ball and missing weeks of football. I agree with King. It does feel it's inevitable that we'll get there. You brought it up with the Jeremy Howe. It's inevitable we'll get to that stage, but I don't think we're ready yet.
You know who he reminds me of? Sorry. Young David Schwartz.
Yeah.
Same hairstyle, same athleticism.
A lot cheaper than Sports. Big money at
All
that
right,
stage.
let's get into our watch list.
I bet you it's coming.
You're the wide open race.
Absolutely, and history sometimes tells us some stories along the way. And let's just have a look at the last 5 years after round 8, where the Premier sat. OK, so you can just see on the screen there for yourself: 5-3, 8-0, 4-3-1, 5-3, 7-1. So it makes you think. So roughly they're all anywhere between 6.5 to 7 sort of wins on average. There's a 4-win team that was outside of the 8 at this stage in Richmond. So you can sort of come from anywhere is what we're sort of painting. 5th, 1st, 9th, 6th and 2nd on the AFL table they were. So a really wide spread. So at the moment, if you look at the AFL table, so we're sort of saying if it's 4th and 5th on the ladder and 6.5 to 7 wins, well, we've got quite a few teams there on 5+. And if you want to go 50-50, you're down to, you know, which is where Richmond were, you're down to 10th on the table. So it is still wide open, and we probably shouldn't be making grand statements about any of these teams, which we do. I know, Robbo. I'll put a line through, I reckon, 6 of the 10. but one thing that was pointed out today by Corey Mobilio on Pure Footy, Collingwood sits 7 wins at the moment. They've got the easiest month coming up. GWS, Carlton, North Melbourne, West Coast. If they get to 11-1, teams that have been 11-1 have got an unbelievable record. It's something like one team fell at the preliminary final hurdle, which was Freo, I think, in 2015. Yeah. The other 8 have made the grand final. 3 have been runner-up. 5 have been premier.
Right.
So if you're a Pie fan, start booking September action
dingy.
and deep.
If they get to 11-1.
If they get to 11-1, which is always a scare. We probably shouldn't have said it, but it's exciting.
All right, you've got the Cats in your sights, Joey.
Yeah, it gets to the Cats, but I started looking at just some of the trends of the teams that Kingy's just touched on that are around that sort of the premiership contenders, the top 7 sides. And it's fascinating, we talk a lot about ball use and we're talking about Carlton and what they need to do. But when you take a look at teams using the boundary the most so far this year, they are the top 5 teams using the boundary. They all sit in the top 7 spots on the ladder. And when you look at Melbourne, Brisbane and Geelong, they are the top 3 scoring teams in the competition. And St Kilda and the Bulldogs are the other way around. They're top 3 defensive teams in the competition. So it's fascinating to see that the teams that go through the corridor and kick long aren't the ones that are winning. And then it took me to the Cats. So we remember the first 3 weeks of the season, the Cats tried something different. They were kicking longer more than any other team in the comp. They were attacking the corridor. And that last one was the one that the Kingy raised a stat after. I think it was about round 3. They were going for the hardest kicks in the competition. Well, the last 5 weeks, they're now the highest-scoring team in the comp. They're flying. And yet they've gone the other approach. They're using the boundary line more. They're playing a bit safer. They're the #1 team coming using the boundary line out of the defensive 50. And they're just doing this methodical build-up, yet they are scoring more points than any other team in the comp. So it's fascinating when you look at it. They've gone from 10th for scoring to 1st since the round 3. Their entries are high. And what this does by going the boundary, Robbo, it also creates more stoppages. And as we know, they are the best stoppage team in the competition.
See, people, you got the numbers, but we need someone to explain the numbers. Why are the boundary users the top 5 of 7 positions?
Top 7 teams. Yeah, I think what it is really, the boundary is where you've got your most space. So teams are trying to protect the corridor. Teams are trying to guard the corridor. So when you win this ball, instead of always coming into the corridor and running into numbers where you risk turning the ball over, if you go wide, you've got more space.
Well,
You
it
play a
changes
bit
quick,
safe.
doesn't it?
It does. But also it means that if you do turn the ball over, you're in a much better position to defend because you're not defending from the corridor. You're defending a ball that's wide. So when you look at corridor teams, only Collingwood and Port Adelaide are using the corridor. The other teams are like Fremantle, Hawthorn, the Giants, Kangaroos, Sydney, teams that have been struggling to win. And even with a kick-long percentage, only Geelong and Port Adelaide are kicking long. All the other teams that are all kicking short. So it's fascinating to see that just sometimes playing safe, we've got all this mindset about corridor and go long, just get it in, Mackay and Curnow. But it's actually sometimes taking the space, taking what opposition give you, is allowing teams to score.
Your lab
stuff.
work there for Zero, very nice. The Swans side of things, King. And I think we're sort of all wondering how concerned to be.
We're all making excuses for them because they're missing a centre-half back, or they were missing a centre-half back and a full-back and Dane Rampe in a back pocket. That ain't the issue. They've got a massive concern, and it's the same last year. Are their midfield tough enough between the arcs? That's where the games are won. If you want to protect your back six, start winning a glut of footy, whether it's at clearance or post-clearance, in terms of head-to-head. So I want to show, right, and explain the first 15 minutes of last week's game versus Collingwood. Why were the inside 50s 12-2? Because they don't win contest. Everywhere this ball goes, we're talking about general play, contested business. That's a contest there. Who wins that? Collingwood. Ball goes inside forward 50. Ball comes out, genuine contest. Who wins this? And this, when we're watching the game, these just happen as a matter of course. You don't really think about it. But the ball's living in Collingwood's end because they just can't win contest. They're getting beaten every time the ball falls, and this is where their stars reside. So right now, Sydney are 18th in the competition for the last month of football at winning a contested possession when it's in general play between the arcs, which is a massive part of the MCG. If they're going to play big-time footy, their boys in the middle, Warner, Parker, Rowbottom, Mills, whoever it is, have to get better than where they're at. And if you want to rank those blokes over the last month in this area, Warner 145th, Parker 145th, Mills 225th, Rowbottom 305th. They've got to get their hands dirty when the ball's in general play. They've got to cover the ground. They've got to support. They've got to outnumber. They're not doing any of those things.
Why do you think it's happening? Is it mindset or is it game style?
I don't think it's game style. I just think maybe it's game style a little bit in terms of the volume, but not the head-to-head differential.
Right.
But I look at them and they're erratic. Warner, 2 really poor weeks, a huge week, then an average week. Parker, poor, okay, huge. Okay. So they're up and down, all of them. I can go through them all. You know, Rowbottom's the only one that's been steady. Mills, good week, average week, poor week. Like, you can't coach that. You can't change systems. So, you know, I watch them against Richmond carry on and kick a couple of goals and Papley go crazy and all of them getting the Dacos pre-game the other day. And it's all the spice and all the sugar, but there's no foundation to how they're playing at the moment. So unless they correct that, they'll be an also-ran this year, regardless of injuries.
Bring us home, Joe, with St Mitch.
Yeah, well, speaking of post-clearance, contested possessions, the most important ball to win is once it's left the clearance, winning the ball either in the forward half or defensive half. I just want to talk about this kid, Mitch Owens. When you look at the play, these are the highest-rated forwards for the year. So this is the All-Australian. These are the best of the best. Charlie Curnow, Cameron, Toby Green, Tom Hawkins, Charlie Cameron. Look who sits in the middle there. A 19-year-old, undersized key forward who's played 15 games of AFL footy. And what he is doing post-clearance, King, you touched on that ball, the most important ball to win in the forward half. He has won 14 more than any other player in the competition. So when it leaves clearance and it goes either to the defence or the forward line, and look, he's got the guys like Charlie Curnow and Darcy Moore, probably the best forward and the best defender in the game. He's won 14 more contested possessions. But he's doing everything, this kid. He's winning ruck contest, he's tackling, he's hitting the scoreboard. He has been an absolute find for St Kilda and is why they are where they are. I just think for a guy that's played 15 games, he deserves more recognition than he's getting.